Welcome, everyone, and thank you for listening to the Forgot to Save podcast, a twice-monthly gaming podcast where we play the games we never got the chance to before with you, the community. I'm Mike.
And I'm Stone. And thank you guys for coming back for the second episode where we are playing Shadow of Mordor. Before we do that, we've been a little busy since our first episode, and we just want to let you know where you can find the podcast now. For our first episode, it was only available on YouTube and SoundCloud, and if you're still listening there, know that you can continue to because we're not removing it, but you can now listen in your car or on the go in iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. So if you have interest in checking out on any of those platforms, go ahead. You can find the links on our Facebook page, which is also in the description, but it's facebook.com/forgottosave.
A plethora of options, if you will.
Absolutely. You know, I went onto iTunes, and I only downloaded iTunes to see if we were on it. I never use iTunes. I opened it up, and it was like the day Kendrick Lamar's new album came out, and I put forgot to save in the search bar, and we came up. So you could argue that we are at least as famous as Kendrick Lamar.
Possibly more so, yeah.
I would argue the fact, yeah. So if he needs a bump at all, Kendrick, you can give us a call. I don't know if you're into Mordor. Maybe we can find a game that you like. But yeah, you could absolutely come on the show. That'd be awesome. We can help you out. We can give you the bump you need.
I did the same thing. iTunes is only on my desktop to see that the Forgot to Save podcast was there. There's not a single thing added to it.
And yeah, we were just saying before this, I opened it up and it reminded me like, your iTunes is on mute. And I was like, I do not care.
And so it shall remain.
Yes, exactly. Don't show me again, iTunes. How dare you overstep your place. But we have a lot to this episode, so I kind of want to get started as soon as possible. We have been playing Shadow of Mordor now for about, I'd say I've put at least 10 to 12 hours in it since we last spoke. I don't know how much you did.
Yeah.
But this is not the final discussion on the game. This is kind of the checkup to see where we are and how we're feeling. This would normally be our initial impressions, but the first episode we still wanted to have some content, so this is kind of a little bit of overlap. But before we even do that, there was a new segment we wanted to introduce. Mike, if you don't mind, tell us about it.
Absolutely. So we had this idea. Not only do we want to cover some games that we always wanted to play but never got around to, but also for people who are maybe on a budget or you can't afford to play every game that you want to, which is many of us. There is a huge selection of completely 100% free-to-play games out there that honestly have begun to almost saturate the market. So we thought it would be a fun idea if we actually, on the side, played some of these free games and also shared our opinions and maybe even a review of sorts of those games. So that way, anyone who, if you don't want to or can't afford to purchase the game that we're playing for the main segment, you can at least download and enjoy this free game, and we can talk about that with you as well.
Right, and I feel like we're going to be mindful of not trying to include all of them on the PC. Also, probably looking at mobile games and console games that are also free.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that'd be a great way to get everyone involved, for sure.
And before we even get to the discussion of what free game we're playing this month, I wanted to give a quick shout out to an awesome member of our community who goes by the name of Grackleflint. He made the beautiful new artwork for our channel and is actually continuing to improve it. I don't know how you could have gotten better than that logo I threw together in maybe an hour or less. But you know what? You can't strive for perfection if you don't continue to improve. And thanks to Grackle, we can do that. But Grackle's an amazing member of the community. He's been really active in all of our discussions, and we're happy to have him. So thank you.
And just to clarify, you're referring to the logo that looks like that late 80s, early 90s PSA logo?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, never mind.
I think this is a truly original logo that no one has seen anything similar to before.
So, back to free game.
Yes, go ahead and tell us what game it is this month.
So, the free game that we chose is actually Fallout Shelter. Now, it might seem odd that we're going back to a game that was released on mobile devices way back when Fallout 4 was first coming out. Actually, before it was released, but the reason that we decided to go with it now is because it was only recently released on the Steam platform, which is great. So that way, if you don't have a smartphone or if you didn't have a tablet that actually worked with the Google Play Store, you can now download it completely for free through Steam, and you can play on your desktop with all new controls and actually a little bit new content. Not much compared to the mobile versions, but there are some differences between the two. So if you want to join us, go to Steam, download Fallout Shelter, or if you have it on your phone or tablet, that's going to be essentially the same game that we're going to be playing again, just with a few minor differences.
And you have already played a little bit, is that correct?
I have. I didn't get as much time as I wanted to play on Steam, but I did put a good amount of time back into the mobile version, and actually playing it again on Steam made me realize how much I missed it on my phone, and I've since downloaded it again.
See, I did also play it at launch because I remember how cool it was when they announced it at E3. So I played it for a little bit on my phone, and then my entire vault got obliterated, and I didn't touch it. But when I picked it up on Steam again, they made a lot of really, really awesome improvements, and I put about 7.5 hours in it already.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
I did not get that far.
I definitely got my money's worth. Don't worry about that.
Speaking of money, I think that's something that I want to touch on kind of first and foremost, because one of the questions on everyone's mind anytime you talk about a free-to-play game is, do I have to spend money? Is it pay to win? And in Fallout Shelter, I think we can say definitively, absolutely not. You can speed up progress, but there's no necessity to buying anything in that game.
Absolutely, and I did consider it because I had some credit from the Steam Marketplace. I considered spending like 99 cents for it, but as soon as I thought about it, I just got the item I would have purchased. So you can, just by progressing and putting a little bit extra time into it, go through the whole game for free and not feel strained or like you're being gimmicked.
And I think, so what you can buy lunch boxes, which can contain almost anything. They can contain caps, dwellers, armor, weapons, and then you can also buy, Mr. Handies?
Yeah, they will go across your vault and automatically collect things for you, so if you step away and go AFK, you can still get your rewards.
But you can still get those through quest rewards, I believe.
Absolutely,
In-game.
I just got one through a quest reward right before we started recording.
So if you're worried about any sort of pay-to-win, paywall, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. As long as you just are patient enough, you can get everything in this game 100% for free. I got pretty far. I didn't max out everything back when I played it at launch, but I got pretty close, and I didn't pay a dime. And it never felt like it was a horrible grind like a lot of the free-to-play games tend to sink into.
Yeah, so let's go a little bit deeper on some of these mechanics here. The first thing actually is in line with what you're saying, the way you progress your individual characters and your vault as a whole. Do you think it's paced well enough?
It seems to be. It seems to be kind of logical. Like, anytime you have a time sink, it makes sense that there'd be a time sink. Whether that is, obviously, your vault dweller gets pregnant, there's a time sink there. Anytime you send them out into the wasteland to collect things, there's a time sink there. So it seems to make more sense than some of the free-to-play games out there. I think the progression was actually balanced really well. It was never frustrating to me.
I would agree with it, and I'm just now realizing that we didn't even describe the game. So let's reel it back for a second. Fallout Shelter is a game that takes place in the Fallout universe by Bethesda. It was made completely free, available on PC, iOS, Android, and most mobile tablets. I'm not sure if they have a specific OS for that. I think the Windows Store has it too. But all you do is you are the overseer of your own vault, and you go in, you place the rooms, and assign the various dwellers that come from the wasteland into your vault, and then try to build up your vault bigger, better, allow more people from the wasteland, and get better weapons and armor to protect them, and, make yourself the best vault. But there are raiders that come from the wasteland. There's different creatures like the rad roaches that will affect your vault themselves, so you have to kind of prepare for all instances.
Yeah, it is not something that you can sit by idly and the vault will continue to do well. You do have to arm your dwellers, you have to outfit them in the right armor, you have to be prepared for things that can pop up like fires in the vault, things like that. So yeah, it's a vault simulation game.
Yeah, and it fits, if you ask me, perfectly into Fallout. I really did a great job with it. But I remember specifically when they announced it, they had made it as a side project because it was just something that they, as the developers, wanted to do in their free time and just thought it would be fun as fans of their own game. It would be something fun to do, and I think they did a great job because they understood the premise as they were making it.
Sure. The one thing I wish it had, and this is kind of an aside, is if you've played the Fallout games and you read about some of the stories within the vaults, you learn that Vault Tech as a company, they were really interested in social experiments and just experiments in general. So every vault had a particular exclusive theme going on. So, for example, there was one vault where there was all women except for one male, and they wanted to see how does that interaction look like while they're stuck in a vault together. I wish Fallout Shelter had actually implemented something like that, where you as the overseer maybe could have some sort of influence on what social experiment you'd be conducting. And maybe that's asking a little bit much of a free-to-play mobile game, but
yeah,
it would have been a fun system.
That is cool. And I noticed there is a mission system. So this was just updated. I haven't played it since the update until it went on to Steam. And there is a mission system where you can go and explore those other vaults as they're like broken down or raiders attack them. So it seems like it's possible you can explore some of those themes like you could in the actual Fallout games, but I haven't really gotten far enough to say definitively whether or not that is the case. But as far as the comparison from mobile, how do you think this holds up on Steam from your experience?
I like it and I hate it. Yeah. I think I prefer it on my phone, and I don't know why. It feels like a mobile game. I think even seeing it on my monitor, it still feels like a mobile game. So I want to be able to grab the screen and pinch it to zoom out, or use my fingers to zoom in, or just tap on things to collect items and whatnot instead of going around and clicking. It plays well. Don't get me wrong. I have honestly no complaints about the controls themselves. It just it feels like I took my phone, I threw it on my monitor, it's stuck there, and now I can use a mouse and keyboard instead.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. And had this game not been free, that would bother me. But it's free and it works, so it doesn't. Yes. But I have that same feeling when I'm playing it. I agree with you. And I mean, as a result, there's not really much to say on this aspect because it is a little mobile game. But I mean, the graphics of it keeps up with the little Vault Boy theme that you find throughout Fallout, and I love that about it. And it translates well when it goes onto Steam, in my opinion, because you don't get that pixelation, or it doesn't feel like any of it's stretched. And again, I play in 4K, so it's really way bigger than the phone resolution would be. So I haven't noticed anything that's terrible. But how do you feel about the port?
Oh, I think the port, again, it worked well. It does feel like it is the exact same game. It looks a little better. It runs a little better. Now, I never had major performance issues when I was playing on my phone, but I did notice after several minutes, and especially once your vault starts to get really filled up and you're zoomed out and you can see everything happening at once, my phone started to heat up, and that would start to cause a little bit of lag when I would try to zoom in and things like that. And obviously on the PC, we don't have those issues at all. So I want to give it some praise, but at the same time, I don't want to overinflate its ego by saying, oh my gosh, this is the best port ever. I mean, it's still a very small two-dimensional mobile game running on a fairly competitive gaming PC.
Right.
So there is that. But no, I think the port was handled well. I was reading a little bit about it, and I guess if you have a touchscreen monitor, you still have some of those same controls like you did on your phone.
That's cool.
Which is kind of nice, yeah. But no, I think the port was done well. It's kind of odd that they ported it, though. What do you think? I mean, it's so long after its original release, and Fallout 4 is basically said and done. They don't have any new DLC or anything like that coming out, and the last DLC came out 2 or 3 months ago. So why do you think the decision was made to continue with a free-to-play game that was a mobile game and port it to Steam?
Well, I think with the iTunes and Google Play Store and Windows Store, I feel like the feedback they get is probably a lot more immediate, and this is all speculation, but I feel like the feedback that gets immediate. You can see exactly how many downloads it is, how many daily active users they have coming back to it, how much people are spending on it, and I think the boom that happened with Pokemon Go may have really sparked them a little bit, because I've noticed, now with the store, in the beginning you couldn't get that Nuka-Cola Quantum, you couldn't buy pet crates that they now added to this. So yes, they expanded the game, but they also expanded your purchase options, and I think it might just be like, here's some extra cash on the side, but depending on how many people are playing this could be like millions, like Pokemon Go status. So I think they might have been trying to cash in on that little niche, but I don't know. That's all speculation.
Can I just say, I didn't realize I wanted this until you just said or brought up Pokemon Go. I now want a Fallout augmented reality game on my phone.
Pass. I'm not ready for that. I'm not brave enough for that. I cannot endure that.
I want to go and walk in the park and have a rad scorpion pop out, and
Ew.
I want to go walk near a pond and it shows that I'm getting radiation. Actually, that maybe sounds a little bit depressing.
Oh my god, this sounds terrifying. Don't you dare ever go anywhere near a game in development. I don't want you near it. It's terrifying.
So tinfoil hat theory time. And there's no substantiation to this whatsoever.
Good, then even better.
Fallout Shelter preceded Fallout 4 by just a couple of months.
Okay.
They wanted to get people hyped for the game. They wanted to get people excited to get back into the Fallout universe, And now we see it again, just recently released to Steam. Mm-hmm. E3 is right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that they held out on releasing Fallout Shelter on essentially the biggest gaming platform that we know of, Steam, because they have something lined up for E3? Now, Bethesda just released an invitation to the press for their E3 conference, and it is essentially a cityscape, and the different parts of the city represent their different games, like Doom and Wolfenstein and Fallout and Elder Scrolls. And then there are 2 parts of the city that say under construction. So people are theorizing that they have 2 new projects to unveil.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible maybe we're going to see an Obsidian-led new Fallout, just like New Vegas? I don't know. Again, completely tinfoil hat theory. I don't know that this has anything to do with it. It could have just been, like you said, Pokemon Go is such a smash hit that bringing a mobile game back to the market, back to the center place was, just good business sense. But
2 things to say on that. 1, if anything is under construction at Bethesda, it should be a new engine, because they cannot keep building games on this antiquated engine. I'm tired of it. It's driving me crazy. But 2, what they did right with Fallout Shelter was they made a free game based on an existing franchise to port to the masses, and it's Fallout Shelter, and it's great. Thank goodness that it was not a MOBA. Whatever is under construction, do not let it be a MOBA, because that is the go-to free game, and they are terrible.
Or a card game. Can we say that we don't need another card game?
I don't know. It's just the go-to.
If you enjoy them, that's fine. I'm glad you enjoy them. But yeah, I consider it the low-hanging fruit of the gaming industry.
Right.
When in doubt, MOBA or card game.
There are so many that are done right, but for every one that is great, there's 100 that are terrible.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Anything else to say on Fallout Shelter?
No. Download it, guys. It's free. It's fun. It's a good time killer. And the last thing that I'll say is probably the reason why I enjoyed it more on my phone was it's not something that I ever thought, oh, you know what? I just want to play Fallout Shelter. It was always something that it was, oh, I'm sitting waiting for someone, or I'm waiting for this, maybe someone I need to get picked up or something. I have a few minutes. Let me boot up the game and just run through it.
Right.
For me, sitting down and playing it, it's not a chore, but there are so many other games that I have on my desktop at any given time. I would rather choose one of them.
Right. Yeah, and that's great. And that's exactly when they made the game what their intention was. So well done, Bethesda. Hey, it was really cool to use the new engine for this one. Either way, moving on. If you guys do have any suggestions for free-to-play games you want to see in the future, or that you're really enjoying, please feel free to drop us on the Facebook, private message us, tweet us about it. All the links are available in the description. But we'd love to hear what you guys are enjoying so we could see if we're into it too.
Absolutely.
But moving on to the real meat potatoes. Again, some of this might be a little bit repetitive, but Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. We have put a considerable number of hours into it since our first playthrough, and we've gotten a little bit farther, and I feel like we have a lot to say on it. Do you want to start with any particular point, or you want to go through it structured?
Let's do structured.
Okay.
Yeah, let's keep it structured. I think it's easier to stay on point that way.
Okay. The first thing I want to say is just as a correction from last week. I had said that the orcs and the uruks were 2 separate species. I was incorrect in stating that. Actually, the uruks are kind of the higher tier orcs, for lack of a better term. They are kind of the generals, so they can ascend into orc hood, I'm saying with air quotes, if they're a strong enough orc. So I'm not very well versed in Tolkien knowledge. So, I mean, for the future, any incorrect statements that are made on the show, feel free to point it out to us. We'd love to correct it and clear the air on anything. But as far as the Tolkien lore goes, let's talk a little bit about the lore of Shadow of Mordor fitting in with the official Tolkien canon universe, which is vast. There's so much to pull from that it almost seems unlikely that you would make a game that's not canon, right?
Well, you would think.
So
you would think.
The right to all Tolkien's literature and the official canon lies with his son, I believe, Christopher,
yeah.
Right. So he has the say on whether or not things are canon. So he specifically said this game is not canon. But it's not just canon because his word is law on it. It's not canon because it conflicts with a lot of the concepts that Tolkien had laid out in the Silmarillion. Do you want to expand on those, or do you want me to talk about them?
Sure. Real quick, I just pulled up Christopher Tolkien online just to get a look at him. He's 92 years old.
And he's messaging me right now.
And he said, "Stop talking about this game. It's not canon. I have said so."
Yes, and have fun with the sequel.
Yeah. No, it's just I don't want to think morbidly, but obviously this man is not long for this world. At some point he is going to pass on, and I'm curious as to what's going to happen after that, who he's going to pass it on to. What if one of his sons, he apparently has a few and some daughters as well, what if one of them has a different mindset and thinks, you know what, actually all of my grandfather's literature is now open to be used, by the masses.
Right.
We could actually see kind of a return to Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit universe in a very real way when that happens.
This sounds like deep subreddit speculation. I think we should avoid that area. There are people more well-versed in it than we are, but that is a really cool thought. I'm going to cut it off there. You're done.
That's fine.
But as far as the lore, how it fits, go ahead.
Yeah. So Stone had linked me a video, and it was a YouTube video that was talking about specifically Shadow of Mordor. He, I guess, touches on Shadow of War a little bit, and just the Tolkien lore at large. And I think it would be a good idea if we actually link this in the description, because it was really helpful to listen to.
Absolutely. The guy's really well-versed in his knowledge of the Silmarillion. Yeah. And just as a quick shout-out, I hadn't heard of his channel before, but it's called The Philosopher's Games, all one word. So definitely check out his video. It's called How Does Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor Fit into the Tolkien Universe?
Yeah. Yeah, really small channel, but, I mean, excellently made video. Mm-hmm. And he, like you said, a very, very vast knowledge. What's funny is that as you start to listen to this, and he says, is Shadow of Mordor canon? Does it line up with Tolkien's lore? Short answer, no, it doesn't.
In the first minute.
And it doesn't very quickly, exactly. And he talks about not just overall lore, but he talks about even like geography and how it wouldn't make sense for certain people to be in certain places based on what is talked about in The Hobbit, but especially the Silmarillion, because that gives you a lot more backstory.
Right, specifically that the Gondorians were not protecting the Black Gate at the time of, I believe this took place in the Second Age, I'm not 100% sure on Tolkien lore, but the time of the events of this game, the humans wouldn't have been there at all. But the TLDR of the video that we watched, and some of the little reading that we did, is that humans, first of all, have to die. The god of their universe said, like, humans die, they cannot come back as these wandering spirits. Now, there are some exceptions throughout the universe that the god has allowed to continue on. And in doing that, I guess it wouldn't be a stretch to say that a wraith could be have a hand in it. But Celebrimbor, the particular wraith that we are accompanied by in this game, himself would not meet the qualifications to do so, and even if by some chance he was allowed to continue on as a ghost, he would have no interaction with the physical world. So it does kind of shatter the lore instantly, and it doesn't really allow for the story to continue, even if it is a really good story. I don't know, we haven't gotten that far that I can make that judgment yet, but Just
Yeah,
putting that out there.
it's a shame because he's basically the individual that made this YouTube video. He's talking about there's essentially two fates when an individual dies, be it human or elf. They either enter the halls of Mandos or they are a restless spirit. Most likely, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from my understanding, based on Celebrimbor and his life and how he never gave in to Sauron, and he even went so far as to actually hide the rings of power from him that he created for the elves, he most likely would have entered into the halls of Mandos and left this plane of existence.
Right.
But in the game, we see him as a spirit, as a wraith, as a restless spirit, and he would, like you said, he would be powerless. And that's a shame because we were just talking last night. Stone and I were both playing, and we were conversing at the same time. And we were talking about how it's nice that, well, number one, there's no fall damage. But more importantly, when you die, you are simply resurrected at the nearest wraith or shadow tower, spirit tower that you have uncovered. And we liked the fact that it made sense. So many games, if you die and you're resurrected, there's really no explanation for it other than it's a video game.
Right.
In this game, because you are actually, your spirit or your body even is one with Celebrimbor, he's the one who is constantly reviving you and protecting you from this fall damage and everything. And it was such a cool feature. And now that I know that this is actually completely wrong, it kind of does take away a little bit from it.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried to put it out of my mind when I went back and played it. And just enjoying this for the self-contained adventure it is. I appreciate it. And I feel like if I were a big Tolkien fan, it would have upset me to the point where maybe I wouldn't have played the game. But just being able to be in this mostly accurate Tolkien world, as the way it's described in the Silmarillion, to my understanding, would be pretty cool to explore, even with a character that would be outside of the lore.
So along this line, I actually want to bring something up that I didn't preface Stone with at all, because I kind of wanted it to be, not a surprise, but just I wanted to get your honest feedback.
This is gotcha journalism.
Why? Because it says gotcha on the screen? No, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about how true Tolkien fans, and there are some rabid fans out there. Nothing wrong with that, but there are some very, very diehard fans out there, like Stephen Colbert.
Yeah.
It's true. If they were to play this game and they knew that right away it's breaking canon and it doesn't fit into the universe, even though they're trying to shoehorn it in, they might have an issue with it to the point where maybe it's unplayable. And what I actually thought of immediately was our experience, yours and mine, with Pokemon Go. So this is already the second time that it's come up. I have never touched a Pokemon game before Pokemon Go. Not once. Whereas you have played them a little?
Maybe everyone.
So you have extensive Pokemon knowledge. You have played every game. You have played through them multiple times.
Right.
Me, this was my first experience playing on my phone.
Right. And I tried to get you so hard.
And I did play through Moon. You did get me to play through Moon. I still haven't beat the Final Four, but and the reason I'm using this comparison is I enjoy Pokemon Go a lot more than you do because you're a Pokemon fan.
Right.
You can see what they did wrong everywhere.
I think that's a spectacular example, especially because Pokemon, the canon of Pokemon, and I even put air quotes because the canon of Pokemon is so loosely structured that the game itself conflicts, like, between series. So it's already built so loosely, and Pokemon Go, because they set up that structure, they're just like, oh, we can ignore everything. And some of the stuff does make me mad because that's the game that got really popular, and that's what everyone talks about. And they're like, oh yeah, when you transfer your Pokemon to your professor and you get candy. I'm like, no, that's not how Pokemon work. But yeah, to go with Tolkien, which literally built the Silmarillion as a textbook for the world, I would feel betrayed. I would not have played through this game as a Tolkien fan. But I do think that's spectacular. And actually, another thing to your point, this just happened this morning. My girlfriend really likes Vlogbrothers, and I wasn't really paying attention to it, but he just posted a video about explaining Pokemon to people who don't know anything about Pokemon, and he strictly used the rules from Pokemon Go. And what little bits of it I heard, I was upset. So, so I could only imagine that shock, like 10 or 100-fold, as you are super excited for this game. You boot it up for the first time as a Tolkien fan. You see the first 5 minutes, and you pull the disc out and break it in half over your knee.
So yeah, one thing, even though we're gonna have some discussion points at the end, but one thing I want anyone listening to be thinking of and maybe to leave us comments on is, what do you think of games where they have such a massive following because there's already an established lore, like Pokemon Go or like Shadow of Mordor
Or Star Wars.
or Star Wars? Yeah, that's another great example. What is the developer's responsibility in order to cater both to the masses at large and to the rabid fans? Is there a way to actually appease both groups? I don't honestly know that there always is. Sometimes I think there has to be concessions made to be more accessible to everyone, but also try and not alienate the fans that have grown up loving and appreciating the intricate lore that especially someone like Tolkien has crafted.
Right. I'm going to get real for a second here. That was a seriously phenomenal question. I got goosebumps here. That was well done.
Thank you.
But I think that's a great place to end the lore discussion. If you guys have more to say on it, please, please, please let us know, because I want to hear from people that know more than the two of us. But let's go ahead and talk really briefly, because there's not much to say on it, about the development and reception for the game at the time. The development cycle actually, as far as what I've seen, seems kind of like what every AAA development should be. It went on for about 3 years, which I think is a good amount of time to build a good next-gen game. These people, Monolith was creating this game specifically for the next-gen consoles, and since it was close to the launch of the consoles, it was a big deal to get it optimized specifically for the PS4, Xbox One. So the real challenge in developing this game seemed to be around optimization, but outside of that, it seems like it went off without a hitch. I saw that when they were building the game, they built it specifically around the Nemesis system. They had built it so that the story of the game was not exactly the focal point. It was more that you are fighting this military, and they're treated like a military, where when they have these military achievements, they are promoted, and you, as their enemy, build up these rivalries with them. But they didn't want you to see the same thing twice, and they wanted you to feel like everything that happened in the world happened as a result of your actions or the actions taken against you. And I feel like the Nemesis system, you can tell that the game was centered around it. And I mean, personally, I feel like they did a phenomenal job, but I also took a look at the reception after its development, and that was the praise across the board, was that the Nemesis system made the game what
Every
it is.
review you read, Nemesis, 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 Nemesis. It's a broken record, but for good reason. It really is a very well-crafted system, and it's something that really sets it out from other games. And I don't want to go too far into it because we're just talking about the development cycle and reception, but it's unique. I haven't seen anything like it, and it makes every fight with a captain or a general or war chief different, because it's not simply, oh, you're this type of orc or urukai, you're weak to this, you're weak to this, I can just stun you and finish you this way. No, each one actually has his own strengths, his own weaknesses, his own things that will cause him to run in fear. Some can be killed instantly with particular moves. It's brilliant. So I understand why all of the positive reviews praised the Nemesis system. And
sorry.
Actually, I don't know that I had an answer. Jump in.
Okay. I also saw, and I don't know if I just said this, but I saw that the Nemesis system, they started working on it as soon as 3 months in. They had, I guess, ran on kind of the platform that artificial intelligence is what's going to drive this forward, and the Nemesis system was the game to begin with. But as a small kind of callback to the first episode, I remember specifically when we were talking about sound, you said that it's not winning any awards, or it hasn't won any awards. So I was looking up the awards that it had been nominated or won for when we were, going through the development here.
Yeah.
And I looked at every single one, and it was nominated for an award for Troy Baker as Talion, but the voice work did not win an award. So you scraped by this time, but I'm on the lookout for what you say next time.
Yeah, I'm actually looking right now. I mean, they won, looks like 4 different Game of the Years.
Yes, yeah.
Their aggregate scores are well into the high 8s, if not 9s for many of them, except Destructoid. Apparently, they really didn't enjoy it all that much. Everyone else really sang its praises.
And a lot of the praise actually came from E3. And I mean, if you're a game developer, that's what you want. E3
Absolutely.
is the big buzz. So getting those, most anticipated game of the year and the floor awards at E3, and I watched like a little documentary behind the scenes as well, and they took a picture like in front of it, and there were 40 awards just at E3 that they were nominated for.
Wow.
And I also get, some of that might be the new shiny PS4 that was coming out. I think this was releasing most closely to the PS4's launch, but I could be wrong. But this was a next-gen game, so people might have been a little taken aback by that. But for the most part, I feel like, all the work on this game really did pay off, especially with a Warner Brothers release that we're looking at. I mean,
exactly.
They had their problems before this game, and they still had their problems after it. But I feel like just dodging that bullet is a big enough deal for this game.
Yeah, exactly. And we were talking, yes, this is a Warner Brothers game, but they only published it. But Warner Brothers is notorious for having, development woes and even just after game releases. I mean, what was it? Arkham Knight that was actually pulled from Steam because of how badly it ran. Actually, It didn't run for most people.
Yeah.
And then you read about Shadow of War, which is a very intricate game, and it just seemed like it was smooth sailing the whole way through.
Mordor. War is the sequel.
Pardon me, Shadow of Mordor.
So hopefully that trend continues with Shadow of War if you are a fan of the series. But yeah, it was. I'm not going to go too much into Warner Brothers, but you do not have to look very hard or very far to find examples of their failed launches, or at least the ports.
Sure.
So, anything else to say on development or reception of the game at the time? I feel like just, as a baseline, if you're a numbers person, I think I saw an average 8.5 seem to be run-of-the-mill out of 10 as far as the scores went. A lot of them higher. I really think there was only 1 or 2 that were lower, but those could have been the Tolkien fans.
Yeah, that could have been. That could have been. I'd have to read through them, but no, I think the scores that I've seen from my midpoint in the game, I would agree with. I think it's actually a pretty fitting score.
And I also saw, because I also watched some of the reviews just to put myself in the mindset at the time, but they also detracted some of them for the story because they said it felt a little stale. Again, this could also be some resentment as a Tolkien fan, but so far I haven't seen anything that gripped me about the story, and I was hoping that would change, so I'm hesitant to say whether or not I agree with that yet. But so far, I'd probably be leaning toward agreeing with that as it stands.
It's true. The story, it seems kind of run-of-the-mill. Basically, our family was killed, and we're out to, avenge them. And then the other point that I did see in a couple of reviews, and I agree with, is they did try and put some things in the game to make kind of pseudo-fans go, oh, man, it's him. Like Gollum, for example.
Right.
He doesn't really fit into the game, it feels like, but they keep kind of throwing him in just as, oh, my gosh, it's really him.
Right, and I hate doing missions for Gollum because he's a creepy, gross little... All right, so let's talk about our experience with it then, unless you have anything else to say on that.
Nope, we're good.
Fantastic. So, you have put in, I'm assuming, 10 to 12 hours?
I think maybe even 13.
So,
push it.
First of all, anything we said in the first episode, has your opinion changed on any of your previous opinions?
I didn't really voice this last time, but one of the things that I was thinking was all I wanted to do was kind of rush through the game. I enjoyed the combat, but it was something that I really just wanted to see it through to the end. That has changed drastically. When we were playing last night and talking, I found myself wanting to do nothing more than to run around and collect the herbs and to hunt down the little creatures it told me to, and to do every sword and dagger and bow optional skill test, and I wanted to do every duel I could find. I'm going at the map and I'm thinking, okay, the missions are all on the outskirts. I have no interest in those right now. I want to go and take care of every other symbol on this map because it's just fun to do so.
Can I tell you something that kept me up a little bit last night?
Hmm.
I thought about it, right? So we have been chatting when we've been playing our sessions here, and you, for all intents and purposes, are ahead of me as far as unlocking the tiers. You are at the next level of skills below me. You're tier 4, and I can only get the tier 3 skills. But you're almost neck and neck with me in the stories. So what the heck are you doing that I'm so slow and I'm trying to burn the story and you were doing everything and catching up with me? I feel like somewhere there has to be a difference in our gameplay and I haven't pinpointed it yet. But a lot of times I just find myself going in loud. Is that what you do, or do you sneak around a little bit?
Honestly, I really only tend to sneak when it's a bonus objective. Yeah, I'm sorry. I run in kind of head first and just see what comes my way.
This just in. Man realizes he's terrible at game.
But I think, and this is an interesting topic of discussion, I think it's because I'm significantly more powerful than you are in the game because of that fourth row of skills.
Right.
And I think that's because I'm doing all these optional side missions, so I get a lot more experience, I get a lot more ability points than you do. And that allows me to get these skills faster. I mean, we were talking about some of them, and I can now use the Wraith Stun, which is an ability where typically you stun a single enemy and then you can unleash a flurry on them. I now have a skill where, dependent on my combo multiplier, I can stun in an arc or in a cone in front of me. And the higher my combo, the more it gets stunned. So I can take probably, honestly, 30 plus enemies and stun them all at once, and then just go absolutely nuts on all of them. You don't have that unlocked. So that's an example of a reason why I can go into a much larger army and take them down. But the topic of discussion that I want to bring up is that the right way to go about the development of a game like that? Should it be that if you do all the optional side quests, you become much more powerful, thus negating some of the endgame difficulty? Or does that detract from the game? Now, we're not in endgame, so I can't really say yes or no, but
right.
I'm concerned that by the time, I even said this, by the time I get to the next zone, I'm going to be maxed out.
Right.
I'll have every power, every rune unlocked, everything that can make me stronger. I'm going to have that ability. So is the endgame just going to be me just casually walking through orc strongholds and just, things die just at the sight of me?
Right. I think that's a very worthwhile question, and I don't think I'm in a position to answer it. But I will say that us as players, it's not our job to try to make the game more difficult for ourselves, unless we're playing Dark Souls with bananas. But But like that is something that is the responsibility of the development team. And I think when they were making this game, they were concentrating so heavily on the Nemesis system that they thought, when you die, this person becomes more powerful. And that was kind of the checks and balances of the game without realizing that there is the further balance needed in the skills. So as the player, I like being overpowered because I am a deathless, half wraith, half like Gondorian military man that can just kill all this massive army by myself, and it makes me feel good. I'm not really crazy about the difficulty in the game, but I feel like they might have spent so much time trying to optimize this game for consoles that kind of balance probably fell by the wayside. So I can understand why the game is that way, and I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but I understand the concerns of people that would.
Yeah, I don't, and that is going to be represented by different playstyles, because I do really get into the Dark Souls games, and I do things like Soul Level 1 Challenge, or I use a weapon that's significantly underpowered.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how we experience the end game, where obviously the difficulty is going to be ramped up. So to see our different approaches to it and our different appreciations for it, it's going to be very, very interesting indeed.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I also did have something to say as far as what we discussed last time, and I'm going to detract from your point a little bit unless there's something you wanted to add.
No.
Okay, we were talking about the music and sound, and we didn't really take a lot of time to listen to it. So I put on headphones, I shut myself off from everything, and was just listening to the soundtrack and the sounds of the game itself. And I am really very much a fan of it. I found a lot of times when you're entering a stronghold or you're in combat, they use a lot of like war drums, and it's not so much that there is a tune to it or real spectacular music like the movies had, but it's more the ambiance of it.
Okay.
And those heavy war drums, they kind of, in my mind, are in tune with what would be in the setting during these battles at the Black Gate with the Uruk-hai and the orcs. Just they would be beating these war drums, and I do feel like it really, really fits the tone well. And although it's not the spectacular score we saw in Tolkien movies, it still, in my head, upholds the Tolkien universe.
That's a really good point. I didn't pay too much attention to the music still, but just thinking about the actual, as you put it, the ambiance, they did a great job. And even like during battle, just the clanging of the metal on metal and metal on flesh, like there is a semblance of realism with the sounds that they put in, and I can definitely appreciate that. I'll be honest, I haven't actually paid attention to things like the war drums, but that is me making a mental note to do so for next time.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, just block yourself off for a second. Just put on your headphones and just run into a stronghold and see how it feels, because it does feel Tolkien-esque. So, and even on the field, when there's not much going on, even if you're just hiding in a bush, it does help the PS4 controller. It rustles the leaves and you hear the wind go by when you're in these bushes, but you also do kind of hear like some birds and stuff. So even at the parts where it is calmer, you can hear like slaves in the distance. So you get some peacefulness, but you're always reminded that you are in Mordor at the end of it. So I feel like the sound is something that if you pay attention to, you get rewarded. But yeah, that's all I want to say on the sound design. I also took a few notes from my playthrough, and I just wanted to hit some of those points, unless you had something that really stood out to you that you wanted to mention.
No, but speaking of, I just want to mention this. We will have footage of our gameplay on the YouTube channel.
We do have footage, past tense.
I'm sorry, we do. It is currently there now. So we'll have links to those videos if you want to check it out. There's no commentary, and it's not some heavily edited Let's Play video.
There's no editing.
Exactly, yeah. It's just raw footage.
I just wanted to see you, yeah.
If you want to see our gameplay in action, and I got to throw mine up there as well, but if you want to see it in action while listening to the podcast, please feel free to do so.
And we can expand on this, but there's one thing I want to point out about my gameplay that you can see specifically. There was a stronghold I was invading. At the very beginning, I got killed by this guy that was an archer. And after he killed me, he became a named soldier. And he ambushed me a second time and killed me again. And I got really mad. So I was ignoring him. I went off to a mission in a stronghold. Lo and behold, he's now at that stronghold permanently. So I died. This guy killed me at least 5 times. No joke. And that's in the first gameplay video I put up. In the second gameplay video I put up, he was so strong that he was stronger than the war chiefs. And I got a mission that was like, oh, he's going on a hunt for some Caragor here. If you stalk him, you can kill him. So I go to stalk him, and I'm letting him fight these Caragor. I'm like, yeah, he'll get weak. At this point, when he shoots explosive arrows. He kills all of the Caragor in like 2 hits, and it makes him more powerful. So now I have to fight all of his lackeys in him when he's more powerful again. And I got down to 1-on-1, and I fought him. I mean, it probably took 10-15 minutes. I got to like a combo of 225, just hitting him nonstop, but he had a counter for everything. So I was 1-on-1 with him for at least 10 minutes, but it was so satisfying. So if you get an opportunity, you get to see me die a ton, but you also get to see me have my revenge.
Real quick, actually, this is a question for you because I haven't paid attention to this.
Mm-hmm.
When they increase in power, do they also gain additional strengths that you have to look out for? Okay.
And some of them might be, where they were afraid of Caragor before, now they might have a hate of Caragor and get buffed. So you could really shoot yourself in the foot, like I did with this archer who now has exploding arrows.
Yeah, wow. That's so cool. I know I'm almost like fanboying out over it, but that's such a cool mechanic. And why not? If someone does beat you in combat, and especially if they're rising in the ranks of this army, they're going to get better gear, better weapons, they're going to become stronger and more confident in their abilities. It just it makes sense. It's logical.
Yeah, this game built on the Nemesis system. I honestly think that was the best decision they made in the development of it. But I just want to talk about smaller, finer points of the game, because when we first started the game, this stuff didn't bother me. But now that it's built up a little bit, it's stuff I'm starting to notice. And we were speaking, and you had said this to me, and it was something I wanted to bring up here. But the load times are really, really good. Even when you die or you fast travel, I've not noticed that we're waiting very long at all.
No, and I know you're on PS4, I'm on PC. Right. My load times when I die, I'm honestly or even fast travel, I think it might be, it's well under 10 seconds. It's probably 6 seconds.
Right, you were significantly faster than me if that's the case, but I don't find myself waiting more than a minute and a half.
Yeah. And for an open world game, that's really well done. Open
world game on a new console, trying to keep it at a consistent. I'm not sure if this game runs at 30 or 60, and I should know that, but I don't. But I'm pretty sure it's at 900p as well. It is phenomenally well done. They really, really optimized the hardware across the board. I can't speak to how it runs on Xbox, but I'm gonna assume it's pretty similar.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's just a quick little note, but that's something I found myself appreciating, that when you are so frustrated that you die from the same general 5 times, but every time you get to just pop right back into the action, go right back after him. I think that's really spectacular. It does not turn me off to the game.
No, not at all. There are so many where death is just a punishment in and of itself because it's aggravating, because it takes forever to load or it takes forever to get back where you died. But there are enough checkpoints in the forms of these towers, and the load times are so low that if you die, it is a minor inconvenience, but it is not enough to say, you know what, I'm walking away from this game for now.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I found myself being more of a glutton than rage quitting.
Good way of putting it.
And another little thing I liked, when there are these cutscenes where you have to escort someone or follow somebody, you auto walk at the same pace. It is phenomenal. How have only 2 games figured this out? This and Red Dead Redemption. How are those the only 2? In fact, there are times where, you go through this whole action, then you have this cutscene where you follow somebody, and sometimes, my hands get sweaty. I just put my controller down and just relax for a second, and my character goes through this, and I get to just enjoy the dialogue. I don't have to worry about how I'm going to sneak around, even though I'm escorting this person. I can just take a second to be absorbed in the story, and I really, really, really appreciated that.
So you're taking the time to get absorbed into the story. Me, I appreciated the fact that the NPC keeps walking at their normal speed, even when I divert and go and I pick that plant, or I go over here and I shoot that spider. I'm doing all my side quests while I'm escorting this guy, and it works because they don't ever just stop and just wait for you like so many other games would do. Love it.
And that brings me to a great point as far as the side quests go, because I know that you were putting stock into doing those side quests. I personally have been ignoring them for the most part. If the flower is on my way, I'll pick it. But there are these small side quests in Shadow of Mordor where you have to hunt these kind of lesser animals like rats or spiders, or I think there's crows or some kind of bird, if I'm correct. And you also have to gather the different types of flowers in these areas. You have hunted all of those down. I really, really am not a fan of them. And I know that you're doing them, but are you doing them out of reluctance, or what's your thought here?
I'm doing it for the upgrades. And it's not because I want to get overpowered, but it's more so I want to play with all the different abilities. I don't want to get to the end of the game and look at my skill tree and think, oh, that actually sounded cool. I wish I had done that. But there's so much free XP, and I don't even know what the other... There's what? Power, XP, and then the
M.
The M. I don't know what the M stands for, but there's
Magics.
The M. The Magics. But you get the M for doing a lot of these side quests, which is what unlocks different runes for your weapons and more health, more
max
focus.
Health.
Yeah, max health all the way.
That's what I'm doing.
For you so much. And so that's why I'm doing it. It doesn't feel like a chore. And I honestly like that I don't typically have to go out of my way. I just know, and actually the game, if you have noticed, it actually tells you when something's nearby.
Yeah.
It's a nice feature. So I could be on a mission hunting down a war chief, but then I enter this one area and it says an herb you need for your survival quest is nearby. It doesn't mark it on your map. It just says, hey, be on the lookout. And so as I'm literally hunting down this war chief, I'm charging him down. Oh, look, there's the plant I need. I stop and I pick it. And I go
hibiscus.
on with my day. Yeah. So I think it was implemented well, and it doesn't feel like a chore. And the hunting one is actually starting to get interesting. So at first it was spiders, then rats, then birds, then actually Caragor. I had to hunt down 3 Caragor, and now I'm on ghouls. So it actually does look like it's eventually going to get up into some higher tier creatures that I'm going to hunt down, and it's not always going to be just tramping some insects.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, I mean, it was to the point where I cared about it so little. If I went to go back and do it now, I don't even know where to find the information to do that quest. But it's funny to see that we're like two sides of the same coin here. Like, you care about it so much, but I could care less about it. But, I mean, it's still the same means to an end, you know? If you want to find the ability to upgrade, all you have to do is take the time to look for it, and you can be, you know, you can go through whatever skill tree you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it rewards those who are patient. I am impatient, so I don't get rewards.
Fair enough.
So, and it's another thing, you were transitioning perfectly, but I also had that, you were talking about the hunting. I find fighting animals to be really annoying. The Caragor and the Grawl, to me, I don't have a lot of enjoyment in entanglements with them. You were doing these hunting quests. What are your thoughts?
Oh, man. I don't mind the Caragor anymore, but the reason is I have invested a lot more into my archery than you have, and that is their weakness. If you try to melee them, it is frustrating beyond belief because almost every time I go to swing my sword at them, they bite my arm and they throw me to the ground over and over and over again. I don't know what the trick is to them other than just to let my focus go and just fire 4 arrows and they're done.
Yeah. Yeah, I use my bow out of reluctance in this game. Really, when I need some kind of tactical advantage is when I'll do it, but I want the sword every time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, when I have to fight the Caragor, the bow always comes out first, and I hate that has to be my first option in my head, because I just want to play with the sword. I want to go in loud and just mess everyone up. And I like that the game does encourage different play styles, and kind of gets your feet wet in, okay, you need to use a bow for this enemy. I can appreciate that. I just don't like it because it doesn't agree with how I want to play. So it's a good thing that it's there. I am just being pouty.
Yeah. So the Caragor, they're not bad, but the ghouls, are they ghouls? Gruels?
Well, the little ones are ghouls. The big guys that throw the rocks, they're ghouls.
Oh, that. All right. So I haven't actually taken the time to fight a Grawl, but the ghouls, I know that we were talking about this the other day, and we both agree they are very frustrating.
Right, and I think the reason they're frustrating is because I know you hate the artificial difficulty, and I feel like the ghouls are kind of an enemy that encapsulates that. You fight these orc and these uruk that when they are about to attack you, you get that heads up, you get a prompt that that's going to happen, or even just from your combat experience, you know how to dodge these. When you fight the ghouls, there's no prompt, and despite your best efforts, even if you are trying to roll around and get away from it, they're still going to get these small swipes on you, and they tally up so quickly, and they can even poison you to the point where it gets really annoying. You were trained to play this game this one particular way, and then for the sake of adding a challenge, they have this enemy that doesn't play by the rules that the game teaches you. So I find that to be a little annoying.
Yeah, I had to do that one quest where I had to hunt down the Ghoul Mother,
yeah.
Ghoul Mother, rather.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so I had to clear 3 nests, which I think this was this a Golem quest?
No, but it was to find one of your memories.
Yeah. So I had to go through, I had to clear these 3 ghoul nests, which wasn't too bad because there weren't too many, but then the Ghoul Mother spawned. And not only did she spawn, but a never-ending wave of ghouls came in. And I died several times. In fact, I think I died more in that mission than I've died anywhere else in the game, simply because you are really relying on your combo meter For those of you, if you haven't played, as your combo goes up, you unlock different skills like instant executions, or in the case of the ghouls, you have your Wraith Blast, which is a huge area of effect blast that will one-shot ghouls nearby. So all the time you're fighting these ghouls, your idea is to get up to the minimum requisite in order to use Wraith Blast to just kill an entire army of them at once.
Right.
But the problem is it doesn't kill the ghoul mother, and because she's just spawning them in over and over again, and because she is very aggressive, she is often knocking you out of your combo, so you are left without using that AoE ability, and you are just fighting every single one individually.
Exactly.
Ugh.
Exactly.
It wasn't fun. It's the least fun I've had yet.
And that mission in particular highlights the next point I want to make, which is I do find myself, not constantly, but it happens considerably often, where I'm fighting with the camera. And that particular mission took place in a cavern, and it's in a small room, and there's 2 fires nearby. So you don't have a lot of range of motion, and those things, they move so sporadically that you're trying to keep an eye on it. But I do find myself wrestling with the camera considerably more often than I thought would be necessary. Has that been your experience as well?
Absolutely. And it's not so bad when it's, in a nice big open field, but anytime I'm in a cave, or even in some of the strongholds when you're in one of the hallways or a building, it's, the joke is in some of the games that the camera is the biggest enemy, and sometimes in this, it's very true.
Yes.
You need to be able to multitask. You need to be able to fight and control the camera at the same time, or else you will have no idea where you're looking or what you're swinging at.
And even if I could just press in the right stick to center it behind me or something like that would have been significantly better. But as far as I know, that option's not there. If it is, please let me know, because I want that so badly.
Well, if it is, I haven't found it either.
Yeah. And it's, I guess it's good that these are the only complaints we can find about the game, but that is such a major one. That's how you experience the game. That's how you see this character. That is huge in every game. So if a game has a camera where you are constantly fighting it, then it's going to be points against almost all the time.
Yep.
And I remember seeing in the reviews, I think there was only 1 or 2 that had mentioned that, and that's what surprised me, and that's why I wanted to know if you were dealing with the same issue, or I was just playing like a moron.
No, I definitely, and it kind of is few and far between. It's not constant. It's just if you're in a small space, their camera manipulation leaves something to be desired.
Exactly, right. But on the just a different little mechanical thing, the button presses. This is another one that is a blessing and a curse. I think the button presses, it reads it so spectacularly well. When I press a button, it instantly, my character is immediately doing it. But I hate that because I button mash, and it's always picking up my button mashes and not what I actually want to do. So I love that this game has the input controls read so well, but I hate that it's not always benefiting me. But what are your thoughts on it?
So you like it, you want it to be exact enough so that it helps you, but anytime it is against you, you would rather them maybe ignore that input. Is that what I'm understanding?
I want it to stay exactly the same, but I still want to blame it when I die.
Okay, gotcha.
So keep it, Warner Brothers, if you could change it so that you tell me it's different, but it stays exactly the same, like Poise in Dark Souls 3, then that would be fine.
But talking about the controls and the inputs, I really, really like the way that it's done, because it still allows for multiple play styles. Honestly, if you go into this game and all you do is you hit the attack button, honestly, you could probably get to the end.
Hands up.
It would it'll take some time, but you don't need finesse. Whereas if you actually slow it down and you invest in the right skills, and for example, there's one that critical hits are hits that you time correctly. So in other words, instead of just mash, it's attack, attack, attack. You slow it down, and you are actually more conscious about your battles. For every critical hit, you get 2 towards your combat multiplier, which again unlocks your executions and different abilities. So if you want to mash, go right ahead. But if you want to slow it down and, rely on direct and focused inputs, it actually makes the game a lot easier.
For the record, I mashed so much, I did not even know that was in the game.
Really?
Yes. I literally had no idea until you just said it that is in the game. And, I grew up playing the PSO, episode 1 and 2, and that is what that entire combat is. Mm-hmm. So I could be good at it, but I'm too busy mashing to even know that that's in the game. So maybe that'll change my playstyle, but thank you for imparting that knowledge on me.
Now, it is a skill, so you have to unlock it.
Oh, okay.
But it's hugely beneficial because being able to get my combo up in 4 hits instead of 8, and actually now it's only 3 hits instead of 8, it's really, really useful. But if the inputs weren't being read correctly, or if they were being stored like some games, Dark Souls, then it wouldn't be possible to do it. It wouldn't be possible to actually use the focused critical hits to build up my multiplier. So I'm glad they don't use stored inputs.
Yeah, I wouldn't change the system. I would just change the system so it only benefits me. Which is some impossible science that doesn't actually exist. But so I don't know. I really if I was watching the game, I would praise the inputs. But since I'm playing it, it's not benefiting me. I won't. But as far as the way the controls mapped out, I think it is okay. I don't have any strong feelings one way or the other, but I feel like it works really well with a stealth system. And I think because of the controls, the stealth system is pretty well implemented. It's just one button, and it works pretty well. It's also pretty lenient with you. If you go up to an enemy and you're spotted, it gives you that kind of Metal Gear for a second where they're taken aback, and you still get to have a reaction with it. So they know, okay, you're not going to win every time. Sometimes you're going to lose by half a second. We're not going to screw you over with that. Is that your thoughts on the stealth system as well, or what are you experiencing there?
So we kind of touched on it earlier. The only time I really use stealth is when it's, I wouldn't say required, but they will have bonus objectives in certain quests, like, and you have to free these slaves, but if you can kill 5 of the orcs in stealth, you'll get an extra 50 M. Again, whatever that stands for.
M. Magics.
And that's typically the only time I ever use it because it's not required. So it might be, I'm actually thinking about this on the fly now that you kind of put me on the spot. And I would like to see stealth implemented more in the next game because it's fun. I enjoy using it, but I only use it when I get something out of it. In fact, when I've tried to do stealth in some of the strongholds, there are just so many enemies, it's nearly impossible unless I just sit back and snipe everything, which just doesn't lead to really fun playthrough.
Right. Here's my reservation with stealth in games. Making stealth mandatory always turns out poorly. I guess I shouldn't say always, but more often than not turns out poorly in my opinion. The kind of fun you're forced to do is never fun. When they tell you how to play the game and make these mandatory stealth missions, like, I love Assassin's Creed, but that is the worst part of Assassin's Creed. So I actually am against that statement you made where you're hoping that there's more stealth missions in the second one, because I would keep it the same that it is now, where I have the option to use stealth, and it can benefit me if I continue to do that, but I've built up my skills to just go in loud and beat everything up. I'll use stealth when there's just a few too many guys where I need to take out the archers first, and I find it to be responsive, but I want stealth at my leisure. I don't want stealth that I'm forced to engage in.
And I think I might have misspoke or didn't really convey my point. I don't necessarily want more forced stealth, because I agree. Anytime there is a forced stealth section in an otherwise heavy combat game, it's awful. With very few exceptions. I think one of them was it Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1 or 2 had that stealth mission, which was done just so well. And you never use stealth again in the game. What's that?
Is that the one where you lay under the truck?
At one point you lay under the truck. It's the sniper mission.
Yeah, with the ghillie suits.
Yeah, really, really intense and well done.
Oh,
but
throwback.
Yeah, how about that? But that's the exception to the rule. I don't want them to impose stealth on me. I would just like to see either more stealth mechanics, like right now, the only time you can stealth is really when you're hiding in a bush or if you're just sneaking up behind someone. I would either like to see more stealth mechanics or just maybe more of a reward. So, for example, every time you kill an enemy, you get experience, and if you do it stealthily, you get a little bit more. But if I were to say get double experience for knifing an orc in the back when no one else saw, I might be more inclined to use it.
Yeah. And something that I think, if I have one complaint about the stealth system in this game, because I don't have a lot, but it's that no matter what, you leave the bodies out, and then they're instantly like, there's a body here, and you're like, well, yeah, I tried to hide it, but it didn't work out. So I think that is the one detraction from the stealth system. But I know when we were speaking during our play, you had also said something about the silhouettes that appear where they last saw you.
Yeah, that's a cool feature. So, if you haven't played, or if you have, I'll just describe it anyway. When you are running either between cover or if you climb a building very quickly while orcs were chasing you, if they didn't physically see where you went, you will leave behind this ghostly image where it indicates that's where the enemy last knows you were. So it's actually going to go to that position because that's the only place they know, which will allow you to do either escape or you can perform a stealth kill, stealth takedown, a bow shot, whatever.
Right.
And that was a cool feature. I don't know that I've seen that before.
I believe, I want to say in Assassin's Creed, but honestly I don't remember.
Okay.
I know I've played at least one other game that does have it, that's stealth heavy. But another thing I like about it is, and it's not exactly realistic, but it does help the player out. If you give them the slip and your silhouette is there and you pop out somewhere where your silhouette is available again, the kind of meter for them to detect you starts where it left off. You're not instantly spotted.
Yes.
So if you are trying to make an escape and maybe you just need to jump a gap above them, when they see you, they're not going to engage in combat again. They have to see you for long enough to understand that that's where you are. So your silhouette will change from the place that they last saw you to where they're currently seeing you, but it's not instant combat again, and then you have to go through all the hoops of escaping that new encounter. Mm-hmm. So they understand. I feel like the people that made this game played these kind of games already, so they understood what's annoying about the other games. Let's tone it down in ours.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of praise for this game now that we're going in. I really like that we're doing these discussions in depth because it helps me really understand the intricacies of these games and getting someone else's perspective. Because when I played it at first, I got this at launch and I enjoyed it, but I never really found myself dying to get back to it. But every time we talk about this game, I want to go back and examine what you said about it or find more about it. Right. And now I'm legitimately excited to finish this game, whereas before I put it down and didn't touch it for years. So
yeah. No, I'm glad this has sat on my to-play list for way too long, and yeah, this is a great way. I encourage anyone to go out and play a game like this. Find a friend that either knows the game well or just like you hasn't played it, and talk about it as you go through it. It is really making me appreciate it a lot more than I thought it would.
Right, and I know, I mean, I got this idea because we do a monthly book club, and I found books I enjoyed. I was enjoying a lot more from this discussion, and it's a weird thing to approach people about, right? Because, for example, we read comics. We read Nova, who's my favorite hero, so I got really passionate about it, and it's weird to talk about this like a person I know. And it's weird to put yourself out there, so it's cool to have this experience with us. So if you feel uncomfortable doing that kind of thing, feel free to just keep the discussions on our Facebook. But if you want that kind of engagement, I really strongly suggest playing along with us, because I think it adds another layer to the game that you don't get just on a conventional playthrough. So And if you are doing that, thanks a bunch. I'm really, we haven't really gotten any in-depth discussion with the game, but just as far as the podcast go, we've heard a lot from you guys on the Discord, and I'm enjoying it so far, so thank you.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of fun so far.
And, I mean, I think with that, it's good to wrap it up here.
Yeah, I think that's a good place.
So just kind of, and I don't want to beat this over your heads because I do hate when they do this at the end of videos, but if you guys are enjoying the podcast, please, wherever you're listening to it, there's a rating system, and I really, really want to try to get this in the new and noteworthy on iTunes more than anything. But if you guys whether you enjoy it or don't enjoy it, please just leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing and what we can improve, because we would love to hear your feedback and get better from us. Sorry, and all the links are available on our Facebook, which is facebook.com/forgot to save. You can see all of our gameplay on YouTube as well. You can tweet at us. We can have discussions on the Facebook, and you are more than welcome to pop into the Discord. Now, the Discord specifically is for Mike's channel, Blue Lizard Jello, but there is a section just for the podcast. So the community is great there. They're all really open, and some of them are listening to the podcast as well, and you'll have a lot to discuss there. So please, we encourage you to check out those links.
Yep, and absolutely, the feedback is so important. Love it, hate it, or have suggestions for future, please let us know. We would love to hear from you, and we will do our best to implement any changes you would like to see made.
Exactly. And as far as the schedule going forward, we have one more episode that will be coming out on the 15th. It will be the wrap-up for Shadow of Mordor, and we will be announcing the brand new game we're going to play next month. So if you guys even have suggestions, we would love to hear them on the Facebook. Maybe we won't play it next month, but maybe the month after. And let us know what you guys are thinking about the game so far. We would love to have these experiences with you, and we'd love for you to be as much a part of it as we already are.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
All right. Well, that was a lot that went on today. So I hope it wasn't too much. Again, thank you all for listening so much. I had a blast. Thank you, Mike, for the discussion, because I feel like this was really full, and I look forward to wrapping up the game with you guys.
My pleasure, and we'll talk soon. Again, this has been the Forgot to Save podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. I've been Mike.
And I'm Stone.
And we'll talk to you next time.